On Judge Faith, a pharmacist sues his former employee and hopes to teach him a lesson.
Hey, I don't have enough money for the milk for the baby. Give me 20. I'll pay you back next week. And so forth and so on. It accumulated up to over $200.
You found out that someone used Frank's truck to commit a robbery, and the robbers then dumped the truck at your house.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you still sticking to that story?
And later, this plaintiff is suing to get her security deposit back and accuses her landlord of being a control freak.
The issue was her using that as an excuse to come over to dictate and worry about what I have going on.
This girl is crazy.
No, not crazy. No, not crazy.
I said to her, don't do that. She began to become argumentative. This is gonna go in a direction I'm not trying to go.
The two of you arguing, I can't imagine.
Plaintiff Francis Shark is suing his former employee for an unpaid loan and the cost of an impounded vehicle. He is seeking $400. He's in court today with his wife, Patsy. Defendant Curtis Hendricks claims he had done work for the plaintiff in excess of the loan amount and that the truck was stolen.
Remain seated and come to order. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Your Honor, this case is Shark versus Hendricks.
Thank you, Barbara. Frank Shark,
Hi.
you are suing the defendant, Curtis Hendricks.
Yes, ma'am.
For $400.
Yes, ma'am.
For a personal loan and impound fees. You say that the defendant took your truck without your permission, parked it illegally, and it was impounded.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, you also say that he owes you for a personal loan for $200.
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't we start from the beginning, sir, and you tell me how you know Mr. Hendricks.
Oh, I met the man about 10 years ago. He's a qualified individual who did work for the pharmacy. I was running a pharmacy at the time. And he did things like lawnmower cutting, changing light bulbs.
So he wasn't a full-time employee, but you just used him as needed sometimes?
Right, exactly. We used to have Shark Professional Pharmacy.
Okay.
It had been open for 47 years.
Wow.
When I looked at the calendar and said, hey, you know how long you've been here?
So did he just happen to come by one day and the two of you struck up a conversation?
Exactly. Off and on, there were times when, hey, I need 5, I need 10, which is for the most part, almost probably overlooked. But as of recent times, we have a little bit of a problem. Something that he had never had any knowledge of, a baby girl. And
you found out that you had a child earlier this year?
Yes.
Okay, and how old is the child?
7 months. Well, I have a second child on the way.
Is this by the same woman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she just told me and I was shocked. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. Frank, I came to him and asked him, I said, I need to borrow some money. So
well, what was going on, sir?
Well, but the situation was that, oh, hey, I don't have enough money for the milk for the baby. Give me 20. Give me 10. I'll pay you back next week. And so forth and so on. It accumulated up to over $200, which brought to the second part. He talked to me rather recently and said, hey, your truck has been towed away. He did not tell me he was using it.
And how much did you pay to get the truck out, $200?
$204.
So you say, sir, and I thought this was very interesting in your answer, that you found out that someone used Frank's truck to commit a robbery.
Yes, ma'am.
And the robbers broke into someone's house, stole everything, and then dumped the truck at your house.
Yes, ma'am. That happened. Well, allegedly, they found the guy that done it. Yeah, and everything.
Oh, you still sticking to that story?
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you tell me what happened?
I was asleep, and I got a knock at the door. It was some officers, and they asked me about the truck. They said they wanted to tow it and put it for evidence. And I asked the question, why? And they said these individuals stole something out of someone's house, and they wiped out the whole house.
Why would they park it in front of your house?
Because at the time, the garage wasn't fixed in my house, so they dumped all the stuff in my garage.
Well, Your Honor, the man is living in my old house, and he's been living there for the last 6 or 8 months, and he hasn't paid a dime's rent.
Is he supposed to be paying rent?
I have never asked the man, so I can't come down with both feet.
What's going on?
We had an agreement, no signed agreement, to even for me to pay rent, just to do work. So I probably did about $1,400 to $1,500 worth of work.
Coming up, Like the saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished.
We were going to help him buy the house. All he had to do was get a job and help fix it up. He lost his job, and he never did another thing there.
And later, tempers get hot in Georgia.
What was the issue? Just the fact that you had to...
She just wants to find one.
Collecting the mail on a daily basis.
Really?
Yes, Latrice.
Really?
You got more mail there than me.
Plaintiff Francis Shark says he tried to help the defendant get his life together. Defendant Curtis Hendricks says he doesn't need to pay the loan back because he did extra work for his employer that exceeded the loan amount.
Do you have something you want to say, ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you are Mr. Shark's wife?
Yes.
Okay.
When we let Mr. Hendricks stay at the house, we were going to help him buy the house. All he had to do was get a job and help fix it up. We would pay for the materials. Well, that lasted about 2 months. He lost his job, and he never did another thing there. And as far as the truck was parked at our house over there.
Wait, you left the truck at the house where he was staying at?
It had a fill there because we don't have no place to put it at our house.
So you saying the robber stole the truck from your house,
yes, ma'am,
and then returned it and left it back in front of your house?
I even caught him with my own eyes. Yes, ma'am. The cops never did nothing until now. They was looking for some guy named Larry. So I told him I wasn't Larry, and Larry like 6 feet tall, and he a white guy.
Do you have the impound receipt or anything from the impound lot?
Yes, we do,
May I
Your
see it,
Honor.
please?
And the police said it was a black man that had left the truck there.
So what's going on here, sir? Sounds to me that over the last 10 years, Mr. Shark has given you a number of jobs. You're now living in his old home, not paying any rent. Seems like this would be someone you would bend over backwards to try to pay back $200.
Well, at the time, I did do work and he didn't pay me. So I figured we would squash, but he said it wasn't. So I'm like, wow.
Well, but the agreement was that he would loan you $200 and that you would pay him back $200, yes, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know many people that would give their home and allow you to live in there for 6 to 8 months and not pay a dime. He said he's never even asked you for any money.
Well, he haven't.
And they even offered to help you buy the house.
Yeah, I know.
So why are we here over $400?
Because I didn't pay him. I feel that I didn't have to.
And see, that's the sad part about this to me. It's really unfortunate that you feel that way.
Your Honor, now's the time for me to step in. I cannot do any more for the man. I wanted him to straighten up. And then it came to my mind, I said small claims court. And with your help, and with the help of the judicial system, I'm hoping we're to get past this man's basic mind to a more comprehensible adult mind. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
We just want to teach him a lesson.
I'd like to see some money, too.
This is not a difficult one. I don't know what happened with these robbers. You say they dumped this truck in front of your house. That story is not going very far with me. But I will say this to you. I think you need to do a better job with the choices you're making in your life, with your work ethic, because it's not about you anymore. You have 2 kids now. It's not about you. It's about them, and you have to take care of them. And I hope when you go back that you can salvage the relationship with Mr. Shark, because he seems like he's probably the father or the grandfather some people have never had, and it's not often that you come across people that just want to help. You know, sir, I'm sure he's not the first person that you've looked out for in your community, and thank you, because it's an honorable thing to try to do the right thing. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff, $400. Good luck to both of you.
Plaintiff Charmaine McIntyre is suing her former landlord for the security deposit, a refrigerator, and rent overpayment. She's seeking $2,400. Defendant Latrice Gathing says the plaintiff was always late on the rent and even had to pay in installments. She is seeking $2,400.
Charmaine McIntyre?
Yes, ma'am.
You were suing the defendant, Latrice Gathing?
Correct.
For $2,400, the return of a security deposit, a refrigerator, rent overpayment, and paint supplies?
That's correct.
And you are countersuing, ma'am, for $2,700 for damages you say Ms. McIntyre caused to your home?
Correct.
Ms. McIntyre, we'll start with you. Why don't you give me some background and tell me why you brought this lawsuit?
I met Miss Latrice last January. I located her home on a rental website. It was accommodating for me and my 4 children.
Where is this home located?
It's located in Stone Mountain, Georgia.
And have you always leased the property out?
No, I had lived in the home. It was our starter home. She was my first tenant. And I chose her because she promised me she would take good care of my home as if it was her own.
So the two of you then signed a lease. Do you have a copy of that?
I do.
May I see it, please?
Yes.
And what is the agreed upon rent?
The agreement on-
$982.
She's part of the Georgia housing. It was listed for $1,200, and they would pay $982. She was responsible for $9. The difference was like $207 that she was still paying to arrive to the $1,200. That was agreement between she and I.
What was the relationship like between the two of you?
It started off being on a good note. At some point throughout the relationship, Latrice started to be controlling.
Coming up,
She tells this man he charges too much. She was gonna wait for this guy to come from out of town. My child was sick.
Your
I
Honor.
told her I cannot afford to miss work.
plaintiff Charmaine McIntyre is suing her former landlord for her security deposit. She claims the defendant was constantly coming by the house. Defendant Latrice Gathing says the plaintiff promised to take good care of her home. She's countersuing for the cost of repairs.
Last year, the air conditioning unit went out. My youngest daughter, she has asthma. And I called Latrice after work and I said she was gonna get someone out. She calls back and she said the person would be there on Friday. This is like Monday or Tuesday. Now my daughter is starting to wheeze and have these breathing issues. I suggested a friend who specializes in HVAC to come over to take a look at the unit. She tells this man he charges too much. She was gonna wait for this guy to come from out of town. My child was sick.
Your
I
Honor.
tell her I cannot afford to miss work. He comes over and does a favor for me and fixes the air conditioning unit for her. She blows up.
Your
Why?
Honor. She called me that evening and said the AC unit was out. And mind you, it's in September because at that point it's getting cool.
Well,
And-
September in Georgia,
Yeah.
I'm from
Well,
Louisiana.
it was still
wasn't pretty hot.
It wasn't super hot.
It was very humid, Judge
It's still
Faith.
hot.
So she didn't tell me anything about her child at this point, mind you, Your Honor. So I said, okay, let me call.
Ma'am, look at me. Look at me.
I said, let me contact my brother, who is a certified HVAC person and a certified electrician. So he goes straight to her house on Wednesday. She's already had the guy, unauthorized by me, fix the unit without telling me. What I tried to make her understand is that
Who paid for that?
she did, I
He did not
guess.
charge because
So-
he's a family friend, and which
So-
I
okay, so
explained
what was
that.
the issue?
point
What was the
was,
issue?
If something occurs, if a fire starts because it was an electric issue, I said, that liability is on me. She said, well, I was doing you a favor. I said, no, I don't need those kind of favors. So I said to her, don't do that. She began to become argumentative. I hung up. Otherwise, this is going to go in a direction I'm
The
not
two
trying
of you
to go.
arguing, I can't imagine.
She tells the story totally different than what I recall.
Okay, so I've heard both sides of the story now. What was the next issue?
The next issue is on a daily basis, me and my kids are bagging up her mail. So
What's going on
that
with
was
the
another
mail?
inconvenience.
This girl is crazy.
No, I'm not
Your
crazy.
Honor.
No, I'm not crazy.
Just,
All of my other credit cards
was
and
it that
things-
much mail?
It wasn't.
It was, yes,
Junk
Judge
mail, Your
Faith.
Honor.
I wish my
Junk
kids were
mail.
there. None of it was junk and nothing was from the
Are you
mortgage company,
kidding me?
Latrice. Yes,
so
I
what
am
was the
dead
issue?
serious.
What was the issue? Just
There's
the fact
no
that you
issue.
had to
She just wants to find one.
Collecting the mail on a daily basis.
Really?
Yes, Latrice.
Really?
You got more mail there
Ma'am.
than me.
So the issue was going to the mailbox, getting the mail out, and having to put her mail to the
Judge
side.
Faith. The issue was her using that as an excuse to come over to dictate and,
Okay.
and worry about what I have going on, to try to tell me what I can and cannot do as if she's my mother.
How often would she come over there?
Weekly.
Okay.
Your Honor, this girl is lying. First of all, if I
I'm
live
not a
all the way
girl,
in
Latrice, I'm
Atlanta,
a woman.
why would I drive all the way to Stone Mountain? I moved into the city for conveniency. I never saw her but once every 2 months, if that.
Okay, you are suing for a refrigerator.
That she gave me, and we have a legal document that she typed up
Your
and
Honor,
signed.
the refrigerator, I gifted to her for $0 because of the fact.
That's usually how gifts work.
Right. It was gifted. Well, I'm saying as a tenant, she's not my friend.
Okay.
So she came to me and says, Latrice, I don't need the refrigerator. What do you want me to do with it? I said, leave it. She texted me on the 26th and said, I changed my mind. I'm gonna need a refrigerator because where I'm going, they don't have one. I said, well, wait a minute. I included it in the sale of the home now because I didn't want to be responsible for trying to move it. She said, okay.
You told her you didn't need the refrigerator.
Because I didn't know that I was gonna need it at the time.
Okay, so why are you suing for it now?
Because I ended up needing a refrigerator. I mean, I needed a refrigerator. The owner told me I was gonna need a refrigerator.
So when you told her you didn't need the refrigerator, you can understand then at that point she can do what she wants to with it.
And I understand that, and I asked her.
I don't think you do because you're suing for it.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next issue?
The next issue was
your security deposit.
When we did the walkthrough, she had damaged many walls where she tried to touch up and it smeared all over the walls. If you look at the pictures that I've submitted.
Let me take a look.
And if you notice in the lease, it says no hanging of curtains and things of that nature.
How is she supposed to cover the windows?
How I covered it, I put the spring rod up there, and that's.
You're not one of those hands-off type of landlords.
I am.
Because this is your home. I can tell this is the home that you lived in for how many years?
13.
With your family. This is the first person who's moving into this home. This home has a lot of sentimental value. You kept her security deposit for $1,200. Did you, within 45 days, give her an itemized list of the deductions you were making? Do you have a copy of that?
Yes.
May I see it? Did she send you an itemized breakdown within 45 days of the damages? I mean, you admit some of the walls need to be repainted, right?
Yes, Judge Faith, and I never, not one time said to Latrice that I did not.
Do you have proof that you paid this invoice, ma'am?
No, that was the estimate. I ended up paying closing costs versus having them paint.
So you didn't have the actual repairs that you say you kept her security deposit for done?
Because, what happened is that
I need to know if you're going to keep security deposit for damages. I have to be able to see what you paid to repair the damages.
Okay, these are the repairs that I paid for.
This is an invoice. It doesn't show me proof of payment. Why wouldn't you have a receipt, a bank statement, something to show you paid this money?
I paid him cash. I had no idea we were going to end up here.
You sent me an email threatening to bring me to court.
Ma'am, that's not good enough.
And now, Judge Faith rules.
You have a tenant who clearly doesn't make a lot of money, who has 4 kids, and you're keeping a $1,200 security deposit. You have every right to do that if she damaged the property.
Right.
But you've got to show her the proper documentation.
Well,
What did you want to say, ma'am? What did you want to say? Oh, now you're quiet?
Because I don't even know which I do want to say right now.
Your Honor. All right. Clearly, you had to repaint some areas in the home based on the photos that I saw. I'm just going to have to do a rough estimate. Even what you submitted is only an invoice for $625. You don't have your evidence together. You don't have it.
Your Honor, Jermaine's life story is her getting over on the system, on people. She's been on Section 8 since she's had a parent. And I just think, but let me say this, when I have done everything I can.
Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to order you to return her security deposit minus $250. That $250, I think, is a reasonable amount of money for you to hire somebody to fix the patches that she left on the wall. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $950.
On Judge Faith, this landlord wants his back rent.
I rented an apartment to Crystal Freeman, who started off as a great person, and she moved out and left me with a sizable bill.
But this tenant says there was more to the relationship than just landlord.
He's all over my Facebook page, worried about what guys I'm talking to, asked me to lift up my shirt. I told him it's gonna be business or it's gonna be pleasure.
This lease is completely blank. Nothing's filled in.
And Judge Faith. Plaintiff Victor Franklin is suing his former tenant for unpaid rent, utilities, and late fees. Defendant Crystal Freeman says they came to another agreement regarding the rent.
Remain seated and come to order. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Your Honor, this case is Franklin versus Freeman.
Thank you, Barbara. Victor Franklin?
Yes.
You are suing the defendant, Crystal Freeman, for $2,150. You say she owes you for unpaid rent, late fees, and a utility bill?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Tell me what happened, sir.
Judge Faith, we're here today because I rented an apartment to Crystal Freeman, who started off as a great person, and she moved out and left me with a sizable bill, which we're stuck with, but I'm stuck with today.
Okay, what kind of apartment complex is it? Do you own a building?
Yes, I own an apartment complex.
And where is this located?
It's in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
It's a 12-unit apartment building, all one bedrooms.
Okay, and how did you meet the defendant and come to lease a place to her?
Back in April of 2013, I had an apartment for rent, and I put out an ad. She called, she came over, we did a pre-qualification over the phone. Everything checked out okay, seemed to be a great fit, hardworking, single person. So we arranged to start a lease. She moved in, and everything started off well.
Okay, do you have a copy of the lease?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? And how much did she agree to pay in rent every month?
$395.
So month and year that she moved in, please?
April 2013.
Wait a minute. Okay, this lease is completely blank. Nothing's filled in.
Yes, so I was looking for the actual signed version of the lease. I wasn't unable to find it, so this is the standard Missouri State lease that I use for
Okay,
all the rents.
no. Do you have the lease, the contractual agreement you entered into with the defendant?
I do not have a signed lease.
Do you have one?
No, I didn't sign anything.
Okay, so you're saying you never signed a lease?
No, I just moved in with my money was ready, and I just moved in the same day.
How long have you been a landlord, sir?
I've been a landlord for about 6 years.
It's interesting because she's saying she never signed a lease, and is it just a coincidence that you don't have one?
Yeah, it is a coincidence that I don't particularly have a lease in this situation. That is my standard lease that I have for all of my
Right, well, I don't
tenants.
need this. I'm gonna give this back to you.
Okay.
I know what lease agreements look like, so I don't need to know what your standard is. If you're suing for rent, you don't have anything in writing, so in my mind, I don't have a lease in front of me. It may not even exist.
Yeah, so I have
So-
I have receipts for the initial move-in that states that it's for first month and deposit.
So she moves in, and what happens?
So she moved in, and the first several months, things were going well. Kind of when I go through my initial screening, typically when a female moves in, single female moves in, kind of some of my key questions, okay, what's your relationship situation? Because typically there's gonna be a guy that follows.
Really?
Yeah, and the reason being, there's typically a guy that follows soon after.
Why is that your business?
Yes.
I mean, I'm just, why is that your business?
Again, so I've typically done this for about 6 or 7 years, and typically that is where the issues typically come from.
Do you ask your male tenants if they have girlfriends or if they're dating someone?
I absolutely do. Because it's simply where I'm renting to one person, and then in a couple weeks, there's several people who are living there.
So you said that initially she paid rent, everything was fine.
Yeah.
What happened? Just give me the rest of the story.
So probably after about 4 months of being very consistent, she was late on 1 month. She didn't pay. Then it went for a second month, and she didn't pay. And then I get a call from a gentleman, and he says, hey, I'm going to pay the rent for Crystal this month.
Okay.
And I'm kind of taken aback. Okay, who are you? I don't know who you are. And she said, well, I'm going to take
Why
care
do you care? He's paying the rent. He's paying, like,
Right. Well,
I don't care it could be her dad, her uncle, whoever. Why does it matter as long as you're getting
Right.
the money?
Right, but it didn't come through her. So either way, it worked out. He paid the rent. She got back up. We were on good terms again. And probably another 2 months or so, it kind of dropped off again. And I think it came out, hey, well, I'm not working anymore.
What month and year is this?
This is now October of 2013.
So does she eventually pay what she owes?
No, we never got back on track after this point.
What month and year does she move out?
She moved out in March of 2014.
Okay, and you're
was,
saying that she didn't pay rent from what month to what month?
November, December, January, February, and March.
Okay.
Coming up, Judge Faith knows there's more to this story.
Why would you be taking your tenant to dinner and drinks, someone that you rent to? Someone you say who is behind on their rent. Why are you taking them out to dinner and drinks?
Well, at the time, she wasn't behind, Judge.
Yes, I was.
And later,
I tried my hardest. I hated to see him lose his eye.
How's he doing today?
At present, you know, he's not himself. He's not his normal self that he had been prior to this incident.
plaintiff Victor Franklin is suing his former tenant for unpaid rent, utilities, and late fees. Defendant Crystal Freeman says she doesn't owe the amount in question.
So you agree you were supposed to pay rent, and how much were you paying?
I know the rent was $395.
Okay.
But I paid him all last year. I didn't pay him, you know, the beginning of this year.
January?
And February.
February and March. Okay, why?
First of all, he was like a creep. He was all over my Facebook page, worried about what guys I'm talking to, asked me to lift up my shirt. And like,
so wait, did the two of you have a relationship beyond landlord tenant?
we didn't have like a relationship, but we had went on a date. And like, I told him it's gonna be business or it's gonna be pleasure.
And what does that mean?
It's gonna be business or it's gonna
Well,
I'm gonna pay. I'm gonna pay or I'm not. That's not.
No, that's what I want to know. So
Yeah.
you're saying that you told him you're gonna pay or not because you guys are.
We didn't have sex, and you know.
You did?
Yeah.
The two of you had
asking you.
sex.
No, Judge.
Yeah. Excuse me,
No.
ma'am. I'm not gonna lie.
So she's saying that the two of you went out to dinner. Is that true?
We met at the same place for
No,
drinks.
don't look down. Look at me.
No. Okay, so Judge, we met at a restaurant. We had dinner and drinks.
Why would you be taking your tenant to dinner and drinks, someone that you rent to? Someone you say who is behind on their rent. Why are you taking them out to dinner and drinks?
Well, at the time, she wasn't behind, Judge.
Yes, I was.
She wasn't behind at the time, Judge.
Are you saying that you spent the night together that night?
No, we didn't spend a night together. You know, it was a wham, bam, thank you, I'll see you the next day. You know?
Okay, Judge, so that part is not true.
I'm not gonna lie, Judge, sorry.
When you ask someone, do you have a boyfriend? Okay.
More to the story,
Are you in a relationship?
Okay.
And the next thing I know, you're taking her out to dinner and for drinks, and she's saying, I never signed a lease. I have a tendency to believe her because you don't have a copy. She's saying she didn't have to pay rent because you were looking the other way.
Well, I've got a ledger of the 5 months of consistent...
Don't care. Don't care, sir. Don't care. I actually believe her. I believe that she said that the two of you had an intimate relationship. I believe that as well. I don't know if you're using your position as a landlord to try to get a date. I don't know what you're doing. But if you're going to wear the landlord-tenant hat and you think you're going to come into court and sue someone for not paying rent, then you need to take your job seriously and not mix business with pleasure. Because as of now, I don't believe you. So your case is dismissed. Judgment for the defendant.